Next on Currents News, rubble everywhere and a search for survivors. Beirut struggles to dig out after that massive explosion.
The COVID issues and with the hospitals and with the economic crisis, and then you had that, it's like the last straw.
Reaction tonight from Maronites in Brooklyn, keeping Lebanon in their prayers. That East Coast storm brought the strongest wind since Superstorm Sandy. Some New Yorkers still left in the dark. And the show that won't go on. COVID is already canceling this Christmas concert. Plus, will kids go back to class in September? A big city is saying no. The news starts right now. A state of emergency in Beirut, Lebanon tonight. The city brought to its knees by an enormous explosion. Good evening, I'm Emily Druby. The death toll remains a mystery right now. So many people are missing. At least 100 have been reported dead and thousands more hurt. The Lebanese government is blaming the blast on high explosives left to rot in a warehouse for years. Tonight, shockwaves are being felt in the Diocese of Brooklyn. Currents News' Jessica Easthope is here with that part of the story. Jessica?
Emily, Lebanese Americans here in Brooklyn feel like this is the last straw for such a beautiful country, already in the midst of an economic downfall and refugee crisis. Catholic Maronites we spoke with say this explosion is the latest in a long line of betrayals by the government.
There were letters from people who were in charge to the government, let's do something about these, explosive materials, and it seems that no one was able to do anything.
Father Dominique Hanna, the director of the Cathedral of Our Lady of Lebanon in Brooklyn Heights, feels helpless. On Tuesday, the explosion in the country's capital killed at least 100 people and injured thousands more. Though they were miles away from the blast in the Beirut suburbs, Father Hannah's sister and her 2 children had to run for their lives.
I heard my little niece saying, my mom took us and she ran. Uncle, you have to see, it was a huge big smoke and a mushroom kind of shape.
Alleluia. Father Hannah offered his morning mass Wednesday for the victims of the explosion and the people of Lebanon.
Our hometown, it's almost about 25 miles north, and the glass shattered there.
Devastated by the scenes of his country, Joseph El-Khalasi took off from work Wednesday to attend Mass with his family. He says even those who didn't experience loss of life are now losing hope.
It's a devastating thing between the coronavirus, and there's a very bad economical situation going on out there, and adding insult to injuries.
The timing of the blast is devastating. Lebanon is struggling to contain the COVID-19 outbreak and is in the midst of an unprecedented economic crisis. Currently, 45% of the country lives below the poverty line. And Tuesday's blast has left more than 300,000 people homeless, creating a new financial burden for the country. Bishop Gregory Mansour of the Eparchy of St. Maron of Brooklyn says Lebanon will be reliant on the help of others.
The only way that they can survive is for the wealthy to open their hearts. The wealthy in the diaspora, the wealthy in the country, to open their hearts once again to assist the poor.
But Bishop Mansour says he has no doubt this horrific event will bring out the best in the Lebanese people.
They're all helping their families, but now they'll help different institutions. So in the midst of all this, this is Lebanon, the beauty of Lebanon.
A prayer service and collection for Lebanon and the victims of the Beirut explosion will be held on Tuesday, August 25th at 7 p.m. at Our Lady of Lebanon Cathedral in Brooklyn Heights. Emily?
Jess, how is the country going to be able to recover from this when it's in such bad shape financially?
The Lebanese people are going to be relying on the efforts of charities and private donations. The explosion has really drawn attention to the country's existing problems. Unemployment is at 33% right now, and food prices are rising dramatically, causing mass hunger across the country. Emily?
Thank you, Jess. It sounds like they really are in desperate need of help. And you can help by going to caritas.org.lb. There you'll be able to make a donation. That's caritas.org.lb. We'll repeat the information at the end of this newscast. Amnesty International is demanding an independent investigation into the Beirut Blast. The humanitarian organization wants to ensure the probe is free from any domestic political bias. They are calling for a worldwide group of investigators to be assembled. While the explosive ammonium nitrate stored unsafely in a Beirut warehouse could be the cause, Amnesty believes the world needs to know for certain. They argue that's the only way to ensure truth, justice, and reparations for the victims. Now, you might be wondering, what exactly is ammonium nitrate? Well, scientifically speaking, it's the ammonium salt of nitric acid, and it's highly explosive. The material is used in fertilizer and to produce explosives such as bombs. It can explode by adding energy such as heat or shock, especially when contaminants are present. Lebanese officials knew for 6 years that thousands of tons of the volatile material were stored at the Beirut port, but didn't act to remove it or make it safe. Records show that Lebanese customs officials wrote letters to the courts at least 6 times from 2014 to 2017, seeking guidance on how to dispose of the highly combustible material. Ben Wiedemann is in Beirut. He has more on the government's rebuilding plans or lack of them from the site of the blast.
Less than 24 hours after that massive explosion went off in Beirut port on Tuesday evening, just after 6 p.m., the city is a scene of destruction. In fact, the government has declared Beirut as a disaster zone. According to the health ministry, at least 100 people were killed, more than 4,000 wounded. Several 100,000 people have been made homeless as a result of this explosion. You can just see behind me the extent of the destruction in this area, which is not far from Beirut port. Almost every window was shattered. Cars have been damaged. The police have been going around trying to make a record of all the destruction that has taken place. The government is allocated millions of dollars to try to rebuild this city, but the problem Lebanon has is that the government is bankrupt. The economy is in free fall, and Lebanon's traditional donors have essentially abandoned it. So it really has come down to ordinary people doing what they can to help clean up the mess. We've seen volunteers going around handing out water and sandwiches. The president of Lebanon has promised that a transparent investigation will be conducted into what happened on Tuesday evening about that explosion. But at this point, many people are so angry with the government that has for decades mismanaged this country. There's little faith that that investigation will come up with real answers to what happened in Beirut. I'm Ben Wiedemann, reporting from Beirut, Lebanon.
Pope Francis is opening his heart to the people of Lebanon. He turned his attention to the Beirut blast this morning at the Vatican.
Ieri a Beirut, nella zona del porto, delle fortissime esplosioni hanno causato decine di morti e migliaia di feriti e molte gravi distruzioni. Preghiamo per le vittime e per i loro familiari.
The Holy Father urged the international community to aid Lebanon and help the people and their country overcome the grave crisis they're facing. A Catholic priest celebrating Mass in Beirut at the exact moment the blast ignited was forced to flee from the altar. The parish of St. Maron posted photos of the aftermath. All the church windows were smashed and the iron door was ripped from its frame. The Mass was live streamed because of the COVID pandemic. Some parishioners watching at home were injured by the explosion. The priest is believed to be okay. Stay with us. Christian journalist Jacques El-Khalasi is in Beirut. He's going to bring us the latest on what's happening in Lebanon right now. That's still ahead in this newscast. The tri-state area is still recovering tonight after Tropical Storm Isaias whipped through the region with extraordinary winds. Lights are out in many places and the cleanup everywhere is just beginning. Wind so strong it ripped branches from trees. Tropical storm Isaias creating chaos as it blew through the tri-state area. On the Upper East Side, trees damaged cars and filled the streets, while down near Union Square, debris filled the sidewalks. The powerful storm claimed the life of a 60-year-old man in Briarwood, Queens. A tree fell on his van, crushing it with him inside. The strong winds caused a Brooklyn building to collapse. This is what it looked like before. Many trees fell outside churches in the Diocese of Brooklyn, although none of the parishes were damaged. This was the scene at St. Bridget's in Bushwick. The church was okay, but several cars on the street were not. Queen of Peace Church in Kew Gardens Hills and St. Mary's in Woodside also had trees down near their parishes.
Oh no, oh no.
Out in New Jersey, a roof was peeled right off a home in Ocean City, while a nearby tornado touched down.
Hurry up, it's right here.
Almost 2.5 million people lost power in the tri-state area. Con Edison saying it's the second largest outage in the company's history. Superstorm Sandy in 2012 was the first. As of early this evening, over 700,000 people are still in the dark. The power utilities throughout the tri-state area are working overtime to repair the outages. As the tropical storm roared up the East Coast, a Virginia church was severely damaged. High winds blew off most of the front wall of the First Baptist Church. Debris from the building fell into a gas meter, causing a leak that was repaired quickly. No word on how long it will take to fix the church. Nobody was hurt by the collapse. The Archdiocese of Boston is strongly pushing back against President Trump's call for the execution of the Boston Marathon bomber. The blast at the famous race in 2013 killed 3 people and injured nearly 300. After an appeals court threw out the death penalty for the bomber, Trump took to Twitter arguing he deserved to die. The Archdiocese is saying justice can't be achieved by taking another life. There's a lot more news headed your way. Our exclusive interview from Beirut with a Christian journalist who has the latest on what's happening there. The new school year is off to a rocky start. There are questions, confusion, and frustration. We'll sort it all out. And a Catholic university is giving its students a break.
Now you can help us put your faith in the news. The next time you capture a newsworthy event, send us your pictures or video. It's easy. Go to netny.tv/send us, and you may see your submission on Currents News.
Returning now to our top story tonight, the deadly blast that has the city of Beirut in a state of chaos. On the ground there, reporting on the news Christians Need to Know, the Christian media network, whose studio was devastated by the explosion. Chairman Jacques El-Khalisi joins us now. Jacques, thank you so much for being with us. Now, can you describe the moments after the blast? Where were you and what happened?
We felt it is an earthquake first, or a terrorist attack. So we didn't know. We heard this because the building was shaking. It was shaking, and first I said, no, maybe it is an earthquake. We were showered with a lot of glasses around us and dust. And the ceiling, the artificial ceiling covering the cables, and we felt something wrong is going on. Everybody was traumatized. First reaction was to make sure that the remaining employees, 6-7 employees, are okay. Thanks God, we had minor injuries, very, very slight injuries by broken glasses. We felt protected, thanks God. It was almost similar to a nuclear explosion seen on films. It was so terrible, so terrifying.
It sounds so terrifying. What were some of your first thoughts when you saw all of this happening? When the walls started to shake, you said glass was on you. What were some of your first thoughts?
Well, the first thoughts, before I saw the media or the social media, I was quite sure it was a terrorist attack. I was quite sure, because they used to do this during the last 20 years, during the Civil War. going into buildings like what happened in America. We thought the same was happening.
That's so scary. Now you're on the ground in Lebanon. What is the public feeling? How is the public feeling about what do they think caused it?
Well, feelings cannot be expressed when you feel traumatized, or now you have to call your mom, now you have to call your dad, now you have to call your child, now you have to call your friends, and now you are ringing somebody, he is not answering. It's a matter of 5,000 people injured, more than 100 dead, and 500 missing. So people missing, they say that they flew on the sea because the port, this explosion occurred at Beirut port. People, at the moment of explosion, many people with their cars flew to the sea. And all day today, helicopters and swimming officers and tried to pick them up. It's terrible. Lot of news are speculating all over the country today. Who is behind it? Why this quantity is stored at Beirut? Who owns it? Who stored it? It has been there for 6 years, and yet we have not one single clear answer. Who, why, when, for who? 6 years, 2,500 tons of explosives, material stored there. Why? And this is nothing is clear yet. The President of the Republic just announced that in 5 days he promised to give clear and transparent answers who is behind it. I hope he will manage.
The Christian Media Network's chairman, Jacques El-Khalasi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Emily. God bless you.
Catholic Charities is coming to the rescue of Americans suffering through the COVID crisis. Nearly $400 million in emergency aid and services have been provided nationwide since March. The agency is handing out food, offering emergency shelter and counseling, and more. Over half of the people getting help are middle-class families who've lost their jobs during the outbreak. The grade school reopening debate is heating up around the country. Already, Chicago is saying it's going to start the new year online only. And while some schools are opening their doors, it's not going to be easy to avoid COVID in the classrooms. Camila Bernal has the story.
Questions.
It's very difficult.
Confusion.
There's a lot of contradictory information and guidelines.
And frustration.
There is no choice. I have to work.
Parents around the country trying to do what's best for their children in the age of COVID.
We are really just in the learning phase, is that children are carrying the virus.
This also leaving many teachers worried and anxious.
I am actually afraid for my life, and I'm not going to be able to teach any children if I am having to take extended medical leave or if I die.
But the president continuing to push for schools to reopen.
It will go away like things go away.
Arguing that the risk children face is low.
The fact is that they are virtually immune from this problem.
While young children appear to be less susceptible to the virus, they can and do get sick.
I would go as far as to say it's an irresponsible statement. Children are not immune to coronavirus.
In Georgia, a second grader tested positive for the virus after attending the first day of school, echoing a similar situation in Indiana last week.
They can carry it, they can transmit it, and they can also get sick from it.
Camila Bernal, Currents News.
Here in New York City, there are a number of obstacles in the way of reopening the public schools. Not enough nurses, badly aging buildings, and a possible teacher strike are raising questions over whether students can return. Meantime, city education officials are detailing more about their remote learning plans, saying there will be more rigid class schedules and throughout the day, more virtual instruction from teachers. The Catholic University of America is adjusting their tuition costs to help students during the COVID-19 outbreak. The college, which plans to go completely online for the fall semester, will refund 10% of their tuition to students who plan to attend classes in person but now can't. Students who are struggling because of COVID are also being encouraged to reach out to the school's finance office, where they can receive a one-time emergency tuition grant. Still to come on Currents News, the Rockettes won't be kicking come Christmas time. We'll tell you why. And you'll meet a 4-year-old who says Black Lives Matter. She now has a new friend. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. The coronavirus pandemic has claimed a long-standing New York City Christmas tradition. For the first time in its nearly 100-year history, the Radio City Christmas Spectacular will not hit the stage. The show, which features the iconic Rockettes and a living nativity scene, has been seen by over 75 million people. Anyone who has bought tickets for this year's season will be automatically refunded. And finally tonight, a little girl turned activist at the age of 4 after she yelled out Black Lives Matter in the middle of a Home Depot in Colorado. Sean Jitness reports that stance sparked a new friendship.
Going into Home Depot, it was like fresh in her mind.
Cameron Radcliffe already knows at the age of 4 why Black Lives Matter.
Because some people be mean to black people.
She says not everyone is nice to black people and that it's important to say this phrase in a way everyone can hear it.
Say Black Lives Matter so loud. Black Lives Matter!
A couple weeks ago, she was with her mom heading into Home Depot.
We had just got in the car to start shopping, and right as we started to enter, Sherry entered at the same time.
Sherry Gonzalez was also visiting the store.
And then I heard Black Lives Matter, and it wasn't like she said it like Black Lives Matter. She said it with strength and like she was making a point.
Cameron's mom, Cassie, wasn't sure how someone might react.
Thank you so much for saying that and for recognizing that my life matters.
They took photos together and decided to see each other again.
She said, would you like to come over for a sleepover? And that just broke my heart, and I was like, I would love to.
The families even partnered together for another good cause, raising money for Sherry's charity helping girls go to school in Kenya.
Anything to help these girls get an education and get a fair chance at life.
A moment capturing the power of a movement. 2 neighbors getting together and making a change around the world.
The youth is going to change the world. In 10 years, we're going to see something different.
That was Sean Chitness reporting. The new friends are still planning that sleepover. Cameron says she wants to be a cheerleader for the team when she grows up. And that is Currents News. Before we leave you once again, go to caritas.org.lb to make a donation and help the people of Lebanon recover from the explosion disaster. I'm Emily Druby. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.